company and of a bunch of animals, right? It was at the Museum of Life and Science in Durham. And I was lucky enough to become an animal keeper there. And we had animals from everywhere. They were local animals, they were barnyard animals. We had chickens, ducks, sheep, everything. A beehive that I had the pleasure of taking care of. And we had other animals in the same place on the south side of the Murray Avenue. We had an otter. We had some horse. We had what was the other things? Oh, we had opossums, raccoons, owls, and then we had a snake room, which I had the pleasure of taking care of. And we had more snakes in there, I think, than they were on display than any place in North Carolina, including a reticulated python that was 17 foot long. We had alligators, eastern diamondback rattlesnakes. We had stuff, lots of snakes. And then across the road, on the other side of Murray Avenue, where the big animals were. We had a cougar, wolves, bears, and we had my favorite animal, or he was one of my favorites. The snakes were really my favorite, but the one I took care of the most and learned the most about was a buffalo, right? And her name was Buffy, and she, I wonder why, but she was quite the animal. And this story starts out with a little song. Talking about tomorrow, thinking about yesterday. Many's the time Buffy came my way. I took care of her. I took care of her. Walking across Murray Avenue, I heard the museum news. Walking across Murray Avenue, I heard the museum news. Buffy's escaped. She done got those low down, caged in buffalo blues. Friends for years fed her oats in a tin. She shook her head, backed away again. I walked across Murray Avenue, walked across the parking lot, went in through the gate on the other side, and started by the ticket taker and started heading up this road that led to the train, and eventually the railroad track and the buffalo pen. And as I was walking, I was thinking about how much time I had spent with Buffy. And 2 to 3 days a week, I would go over and feed and water her. And when I first got there, things had changed later to a lot. But when I first got there, to feed her, I had to go into a shed and pick up a bucket, put some oats in it, and go around and walk up a ladder, get up on a roof, and pour the contents of the bucket, the oats, down a PVC pipe that was about 8 inches long, 8 inches wide, and it went down into the pen and hit the ground. Well, I did that for a good while, but then we decided we'd change it. Instead of pouring it on the ground there, I would take the bucket of oats and walk around and go through the gate and then pour it there. And that didn't seem right, so we decided to put it in a tin about that long and about that wide and about that high, stainless steel, and just pour the oats in there, and then she could stick her nose in and eat. Well, one day I decided I was going to take a picture of her. So I poured the oats in the tin, and then I went over and sat next to the fence and was trying to focus this telephoto lens on the buffalo while she was eating. But it kept going out of focus and out of focus. I couldn't get a picture. And all of a sudden it came in focus. And so I took the picture. And then I looked around. And there she was. Her tongue was on my toes as they were sticking out there. She licked my feet. And she had this great big ball of oats on her nose. It was quite the picture. And so after I found out she was that tame, before she wouldn't let me get anywhere near her, we started taking the oats and putting them in the middle of the pen on this old rock. That was, the museum there was part of a rock quarry that was no longer used, and there were huge boulders that were exposed, and I'd go pour the oats there. Well, I'd pour the oats out, and then I'd step back and watch her eat. When I stepped back, she would go to eat, and so I watched her for a while, and then I decided, well, no, I want to get a little closer. So I'd take one step forward and stop and look at her and watch her eat. If she didn't shake her head or back up, I'd stay there. For about a year and a half, one step at a time, I got closer and closer and closer until I got right up on her. And then I leaned over. Was afraid I was going to fall on her. It was so close. And I touched her right there on the forehead. She didn't do anything. She kept eating. And so I backed up. And from then on, I kept, every time I would go there, I would rub her. Started with her forehead, the side of her face, chin, her nose. Then I got to her neck and her ears and ran down her sides. And in about 2.5 years, I was able to pull the hair off her back and pull the hair and pull the hair. And they would use the hair at the museum for part of the children's programs. I did this. It took about maybe 3.5, 4 years before I could completely walk around her. And one day, like today, I'm standing beside the pen as I'd been thinking about her, and I was standing and I was looking down in a corner of the museum where there was a fence, and she was there in the middle, staring out. There was a keeper over here and a keeper over here, and they had a standoff. And I was just looking, going, I just stared. I didn't know what to do. I thought it was foolish that they would try to get her up. But at any rate, we looked. And then all of a sudden, she bolted. And she started running. And she ran across the railroad tracks, ran past the guy there, and then she turned. And she started coming my way. Right? And I'm getting nervous because there's no way that I can outrun a buffalo, right? I can't even out-dodge a buffalo. I can't do anything. So I just say, well, it might be my last day, but I just have to stay here. And so here we go. The ground is shaking. Boom, 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 boom. She's coming closer and closer. Boom, 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 boom. And she runs right in the gate. Goes in her pen. I walk over, close the gate, lock it, and turn around and walk back to Murray Avenue. Walking across Murray Avenue, I sang the museum news, Walking Crossbury Avenue, I sang the museum news. Buffy's back home. She done lost those caged in Buffalo Blues. Next, Tracy Lynn and Jim O'Keefe.